What's up, everybody? This is Daddy Rod. So happy to be with you all again. It's been a few weeks since well, not a few weeks, but not too long after I last talked to you. But I hope everyone is doing well. We're getting back to some type of normalcy now with post-COVID. So this is actually a very, very good thing. So, hey, I'm back. And this show, we're actually going to talk about probably the third most popular question I'm asked is, Daddy Rod, what are the best leather events to go to? And usually these are from newbies who've never been to any type of leather event whatsoever. And then for those who've been to, I would say, smaller events, but nothing major and big time. So I'm just going to briefly give you a history of a lot of the leather events that happen now, or occur, I should say, are occurring, and have been going on 40 some, most are going on 40 years now, actually. And some newer stuff that's going on as well. All right. Start off, you got to understand a lot of these leather events that leather men and women go to, we consider them like family reunions in a way, because depending on where you live, you might not have a leather bar, or you might not be a part of a leather organization. So these leather events is a way for us to come together just to say hello, see how we're doing, and see what's new in your life, all this other good stuff. And a lot of these events, some of them have contests. Not all of them, but some of them do. And it's just a weekend of parties, some play sessions going on. If the event does have a contest, and you're there to support whomever for the contest. So it's a lot going on, and it's just a great time. And for the newbies, you have the smaller events, let's say like a Claw, or maybe MAF, you want to consider that small. And then you have your larger events like IML and Folsom, which are large scale leather BDSM events. So I'm going to give you a little history on all those events. So I was going to start off chronologically by the calendar year, the events to go, but I'm actually going to start off from the longest serving one to the newest one and work his way back. All right. So the most popular leather event is International Mr. Leather. That was founded back in 1979. That officially started in 1979 by the late Chuck Renslow. It got its birth, though, from the Mr. Gold Coast bar contest in Chicago. And as the popularity of that event grew, more people started to go to these events. So to that event, I should say. So in 1979, they moved to a larger venue, like a larger hotel or something like that, and pretty much made it International Mr. Leather. So per the name International, that means that this contest is open to the world. And what's unique about this contest is to enter the contest, you have to be a feeder. It's like a feeder contest. So you have had to won a title from whether it be a leather bar. So let's say, for instance, I was Mr. Atlantic Eagle in 2016. So I represented the Eagle. So I competed in IML. And so you have various bars across the nation that have contests. So you have the Eagle in San Francisco, LA, there's the Fault Line, there's the New York Eagle, DC Eagle, the Winter Manors Eagle, which is in Fort Lauderdale, or Winter's Manors, I should say. And just a plethora of other bars. Now, we've seen over the last few years, some leather bars have gone under, but the ones that have stayed are still sustaining themselves. We still have contests for those at those particular bars, and they feed into IML. Then you have more regional contests, maybe statewide and regional contests. So like you might have like a Mr. North Carolina Leather or Mr. Colorado Leather and something like that. And then whoever wins that contest will then represent that particular state or particular leather contest in IML. Now, in the earlier days, since there was a lot more bars and not too many leather events, the number of participants was kind of small. I would say between 30 to 40, maybe. And then you was like, ooh, that's a large number. But compared to now, actually, correction, it's probably 20 to 30. But now, I think the last class of Ironman had like 60? Or was it 70? It was a lot of contestants because with the popularity of the leather community growing, the interest in the leather community growing, there have been a lot of new pop-up events around the nation that have had contests. And so those contest winners will then come into IML. And so that's how you have the contest now. Now, being that I was in the contest, you can have as many contestants as you want. It could be between 40 to 70, but they dwindle it down to the top 20. So you're interviewed. You technically have your pecs and personalities, which is technically a fashion show. So you want to wear your best leathers and show your best bod. Now, of course, back in the day, they were really particular on having a very muscular type body, but nowadays it's kind of like represent yourself. Now, still, I kind of see the same muscular body win, but you do see a lot more different body types, which is a great thing. Reach the top 20 and everything like that. So that's a very good thing. So then after the top 20, then they dwindle it down to the top 3. And then if you make the top 3, of course, you're second runner-up, first runner-up, and then International Mr. Leather. So with that weekend, since again, that's one of the largest leather events in the world, you not only have the contest, but you have a plethora of parties from different leather organizations, one being Onyx. We have our Onyx party on that Saturday night. I think the Mr. San Francisco Leather, they have like a leather party, and various other parties from other organizations or just other gay organizations outside of leather, but they have like a leather kind of type party. And then, of course, most people go to leather to IMLs to shop. So they have a huge leather market. So if whatever kink you're into, they have a vendor for you. I mean, because the vendors market goes from Friday to Monday. So you have 4 straight days of just shopping. And so you'll run into your favorite porn stars who are like in the booths with some of these vendors. And it's a great, great time. And of course, there's a lot of fucking and freaking at every party. It's a very sex positive event. So, it's a fun weekend. It's always in Chicago, and it's always Memorial Day weekend. So if you ever think Memorial Day weekend, think of Chicago and IML. That's where it is. It's always been that way since its inception in 1979. We technically haven't had an IML since 2019. And then because 2020 is when COVID hit, we was going to do it. They were going to do, I shouldn't say we, but they were going to do it. But then, with the lockdown, last 2 years, wasn't going to happen. So this is going to be the first IML since 2019. So the anticipation is just out there. People just want to go. It's been a long time. And I know for our current title holder, Jack Thompson, who's an Onyx brother he was birthed in Onyx Northwest, but he won as he moved to the DC area and was representing Onyx Mid-Atlantic. And he was actually Leatherman of Color 2019. And that's how he won and got into the feeder. And he will finally step down. So technically he's made history in a way because he's the longest running IML winner for going on 2.5, 3 years. So he's a great guy. So that is your major leather event, one of the most major leather events in the world. Second one after that would be Folsom Street. Folsom Street started in 1984 in San Francisco, and it is the largest leather, BDSM, kink related event in the world. And it's usually the fourth Sunday in fourth Sunday in San Francisco. And it is an event you have to go to at least once in your life because it is an outdoor fair. And so being that it is in San Francisco, and San Francisco is one of the few cities in the world where you can literally walk around naked. So if you're a nudist or just a plain exhibitionist, you can walk around naked, or being as less leather as you want, maybe just a harness or a vest and be totally naked. Now, technically, you're not supposed to have sex in public, but there's workarounds. People kind of crowd around, and so people can't see it, because you have to be over 18 to get up in there. So, but per the laws, you're not supposed to have outdoor sex, but they still have it. Because now with social media, people post people just doing whatever they did in Folsom Street. And the beauty of it is also is they do have a lot of outdoor like kink sessions. I mean, you'll see flogging, whipping, spanking, fisting. I mean, you will see it all. And of course, there's vendors out there, and there's DJs on different streets, because it's all on Folsom Street in the Somo district of San Francisco, south of Market. That's what Somo is. And it is an event you have to go to. I tell people all the time. Now, they do have a sister event called Dory Alley, which is a smaller scale version of it. And that's in San Francisco as well. And that's usually the last Sunday in July. Now, I tell people if they want to go to one of the Folsom Street events, go to that one first, because it's a lot smaller, it's more manageable, because it's not as large as Folsom Street Fair. But now I've heard it's been growing a lot more in popularity because Folsom Street is too large for most people. And but it is smaller, and to me, I like it better because it's just a more of a family camaraderie there that I like compared to Folsom Street, because it's become somewhat business-like. So you have your kinksters there and everything, but unfortunately now you kind of got these circuit boys coming in there, and it's just kind of like lost its authenticity of the kinks world, I think, to a degree. But you'll still see the kinkiness there, don't get me wrong, especially with some of the leather organizations out there, plus Onyx is out there with Northwest Chapter. So that is Folsom Street Fair, and then / Dory Alley, which is in July. Now, the third most popular one would be Mid-Atlantic Leather, or MAL. That technically starts off your calendar year of leather events. It always starts in January during MLK weekend, excuse me. And it is, it was started back actually in the late 70s in New York to a degree, as one of a Leatherman. Oh God, what was his name? I'm trying to remember his name. Can't remember his name. Glenn Pitcher, I think it was his name. He started off actually at a room at the Waldorf Astoria, and just inviting leather men and women to just kind of congregate. And as the popularity, and it was actually invite only. And if you remember back to my previous shows, I was talking about how the community was invite only, same way with this kind of party. And as it grew in popularity, they had to move out of the hotel, and then a member of the Centaurs, because that's where MAL got its birth from, the Centaurs, they picked it up and moved it to various cities throughout the East Coast, and then it kind of settled in DC. And it technically didn't even have the contest. It was just a leather cocktails. That's what they called it, because leather cocktails is the centerpiece of the MAL weekend. If you go to leather cocktails, you'll thoroughly enjoy it. I'll go into that in a minute. But that's how MAL got its start. And the contest actually got launched in 1985. So you went roughly about 6 years of just money that's a gathering spot at whether it be a hotel or wherever, ballroom where just people got together for leather cocktails, but then they incorporated the contest, which actually feeds into IML. So that started off in 1985, and then they just made it into this huge weekend. So now you have not only the leather cocktails, which is you pay extra for that, but it's like an open bar. They got great food, and it's a great way for the leather family to come together and just catch up and all this other stuff. And the Centaurs put on a nice show. They introduce all the contestants who are not only running for MAL, which feeds into IML, but any other contestants who are running for IML. That happens at Leather Cocktails, and then they incorporated the leather market just like IML does. So again, if you can't make IML in Chicago Memorial Day weekend, you can start off the year off in DC at Mid-Atlantic Leather. and it's really gaining popularity. I mean, I say this because I remember back maybe even a few years ago, again, it always falls on MLK weekend, albeit if it's not the weekend of an inauguration, where they either move it up or after. Can't remember how it goes. But you could book your room months after they release the new rooms. Now it's so popular that you can't, if you don't get your room within the, let's say for instance, MAL ends on the 16th, which is on a Monday, and they open up the links for the next year on the 23rd. Like this past year, room sold out in 20 minutes. I'm like, oh my God. And this is at the Host Hotel, which is the Hyatt Regency. And you're like, damn, this wasn't like this 5 years ago. That's how popular the event has gotten. And a lot of people want to stay at the Host Hotel because, keep it real, the layout is so unique in the fact that it's like an octagon, so it's not like a circle, it's like an octagon. And there's like I think the 11th floor, there's 10th and 11th floor, there's like this walkway where it has these mirrors, and you can see into the rooms of other people because it's like an openness with the hotel rooms. And you have people who open the curtains and you can see them fucking, fisting, whatever. So, and people be having sex in the hallways and in the stairways. And so people want to stay at the Host Hotel. Personally, even with my younger days, and now especially I've gotten older, when I'm ready to sleep, I'm ready to sleep. So I don't want to hear no noise. I don't hear nothing. So I usually get a room outside of the Theater Hotel, which is usually within a block from each other. And, you block a block away and you can walk into it. Now, of course, if it's super cold, you're like, fuck. But if you're, if it's not too cold, it's bearable, So that's one of the most popular events in the world. And I usually tell newbies that's the best one to go to, first. That's the first one I would suggest because it's a great opener because it's not too big, it's not too small. And the best thing about it, I tell people, not because, and I'm kind of partial because I'm part of Onyx, but we're one of the few leather organizations that actually has like a cocktail, not a cocktail party, but like a suite, which welcomes participants coming in from wherever, and especially open to men of color. So we have our suite open and we have our Onyx Punch and we have demos going on. And it's just a great way for us to congregate and have that safe space because sadly, you could go into MAL and there's like the lobby's full of people because they're drinking and they're talking. And if you're a man of color, and let's say, for instance, you don't particularly care to, let's say white men don't really fit your fancy, that's fine. But most of them, it's mainly white people out there. And then if they do see a black man, unfortunately, half of them will fetishize you and be like, oh my God, I want some of that big black cock. And I'm like, ugh. So, it's like, oh. And then the few black people or Latinos you do see there who hang out with them, act like you a ghost. That's a whole other conversation. That's another show that we'll talk about. But that's MAO. So I would highly suggest you check that out if you want to go to start your leather journey. Start your leather event journey. Go to MAL. Now, another good one, which maybe we kind of don't know about, but it's good because it has a strong educational component, is called CLAW. And CLAW is an acronym for Cleveland Leather Awareness Weekend. And that was founded by Bob Miller and Dennis McMahon. I can't pronounce his last name, but Dennis. And they started in 2002. And it's in Cleveland. And they have no contest. That's a leather event where they do not have a contest. But what makes CLAW good in my eyes is it has a weekend full of classes. So it has classes on different kinks from like maybe bondage, restraints, fisting, piss, whatever. Then it has workshops on power dynamics. I know recently they started a people of color kind of like workshop. So we have people of color in the community just talking about their experiences in the leather community. And it's just a great event in that aspect. And of course, like any leather event, They have parties all weekend. I know they have this leather dinner at Claw, which recognizes people in the leather community. They have a few dances too. I know Onyx has a dance and a few other people that have dances. And of course, it's fucking and freaking. But Claw is a good one if you really want that educational aspect. You really want to learn something. Because sadly, MAL and IML don't have that. Now, Onyx, we used to, and I think we're going to get back to doing it. I used to have a workshop during IML where we kind of had like, it was more of like having elders and new people just discussing things, relevant topics to the leather community and how people of color have been impacted, how we are, or how we're making an impact. But unfortunately, that's the only downer, I think, the negative about IML and MAL. They don't have no educational component, which I think is kind of bad. But Claw has that, which is a very good thing. And again, Claw falls the last weekend of April. So it conflicts, though, with a lot of various other not organizations, but other non-leather events, which is very popular. Let's say, for instance, like there's like the White Party in Palm Springs, also Black Tina Oasis is in Palm Springs. There's Big Boy Pride. I think Bears and Mayhem, or whatever it's called, Bikers Bears Mayhem in Pennsylvania. I think it's the same weekend as well, I believe. So it's just like it conflicts with a lot of events. So unless you're just a diehard person, most people kind of forget about Claw, sadly. But if you kind of want to just go for the educational, go to Claw. In between that spring, between those four or five major leather events, you do have regional events going on. So like, for instance, here in Atlanta, we have an event called Southeast Leather Fest, or call it SOUTH. That's always usually in June timeframe. And it has a strong educational component, which I like. So a lot of leather BDSM people, both gay and straight, come to the Atlanta area for that weekend. It's a great time. They have a contest and various cocktail parties and stuff like that. So that's a great thing. There's actually another leather kind of like leadership / educational event called Leather Leadership Conference, which usually is in March. This year it's going to be in September. Sadly, this year it's going to be conflicting with Folsom. But Leather Leadership Conference, that's another good event. It's going to actually be here in Atlanta this year. It actually is in Atlanta. It used to kind of jump around between Philly and a few other cities around the East and Midwest, but now it's been settled here in Atlanta. And that's a good event as well. And then again, there's various events going on throughout the nation in different regions. So a perfect resource to find out what's going on. There's a leather magazine, not leather, it's like a newspaper called the Leather Journal. And they kind of put out there what's going on leather-wise with events. So that's another good way to find things out. And a good thing about all these events is, and I tell people who are new, who want to go to them, and also to save money, because a lot of this stuff costs money, because not only got to pay for the flight, you got to pay for the hotel, and then that's not including food for the weekend. It gets expensive real quick. The best thing I tell people to do, and the ones I know that actually seek volunteers, are IML, Claw, Self, and Leather Leadership. And usually by volunteering, it can be capacity of helping with registration, it can be with setup, whatever, what have you. Usually they offer a discounted rate for registration, or maybe a full ride, depending on how much volunteering that you do. And then plus it's a great way just to meet people in the community, because you're working with people, so you get to meet a lot of different people. And some of these events, especially the smaller, more regional ones, I actually offer like scholarships. And sometimes those scholarships will pay for everything from your hotel to your registration. So it's always good to kind of follow their websites and the social media to see when they post stuff about that. And to end the leather events, I cannot leave without mentioning Onyx's leather run Blackout. Blackout was created again, just as the organization was created, to create a very inclusive event for men of color and women of color and our supporters to just have a great weekend just with us. It's like a family reunion for Onyx. So we have a weekend of just parties, cocktail parties, play parties. We started adding an educational component. We have workshops, and depending on the city, then we'll set up like tours if you've never been to the city, so you can kind of tour the city the way you want to. And it's a great event. So the last one we had was in Los Angeles in 2019, hosted by our Onyx Southwest chapter. This year, it's going to be October 6th to the 10th in Fort Lauderdale, hosted by our Onyx Deep South chapter. And registration is now open. You can get your hotel as well. It's going to be in Fort Lauderdale. Go to blackout.onyxmen.com and you can register for the package for the weekend. So there's going to be like a play parties, education, Onyx University, constant cocktail parties. I believe they're planning a trip to the nude beach in North Miami and a lot of other good stuff. It's going to be a great weekend. I tell anyone, especially who's new to Onyx, you have to go to it because it's, you just, when you're with your family, as I say, my Onyx family, we just have a great time. We really honestly do. And we haven't had one literally in almost 3 years. So it's going to be a fun time. And it's our 27th blackout. So 27th year. So, to have blackout going on that long, it's just a great thing. I know our Onyx South East chapter, we've hosted 7 of them, I believe. The last one being in New Orleans in 2017. But you definitely want to check that out for sure. I know you'll have a good time. I won't think I know you'll have a good time. Plus, I would love to see you there. I know because I keep hearing brothers say, I would love to go to an event where I'm welcomed. I'm not invisible. Blackout is the event for you to go to. And I can't stress this enough. So please go to the website, register. I think the registration right now is $175 and it goes up to $200 June 1st, I believe. But check them out. Also hit them up, Onyx Deep South, on Instagram and Twitter. You can hit them up and send them a message, ask them about it if you want to. You can hit me up as well, and I can give you more information as well. But you'll definitely have a good time. I think that's really, how can I forget about the women? I forgot about IML. So first about IML, I will actually be there. So IML will be this year, May 26th through May 30th. So I will be there. So I would love to see you there. I think we have 9 Onyx members, both full brothers and associates who are going to be running for IML. One of our brothers is going to be running for IMBB. IMBB is actually an acronym for International Mr. Boot Black. So our Boot Blacks are instrumental. They are kind of forgotten in our community, but our Boot Blacks are very important people in our community because not only do they take care of our leathers, but they're just an integral part of our community. So they were added to the IML contest back in 1993. Now, International Mrs. Leather, that started in 1986, I believe. I think it was 1986. And that was founded because I won't say it's a subset. That's not the right word. But to honor the women in our leather community. So you have International Mr. Leather, why don't you start International Miss Leather? So, yeah, and it was started in 1986. And it is such a different event than IML because IMSL, which is International Miss Leather, usually they have like between 6 to maybe, I think the most I ever saw was 10 contestants. So it's much smaller, but the energy there is so different. And you feel like, okay, this is really, really cool. I really like this. And it's hard for some gay men to kind of go into a women's space because there is a different energy. It really honestly is. I won't even lie to it. But to me, it's a good energy because, when you're around a lot of men, sometimes it can be so sex driven. It's like, can we just chill and have a good time? Not have to be all about sex. So, of course, if you're gay and you go to a women's event, you ain't going to have sex with the women unless you're bisexual. So, you're just there to have a good time. And IMSO gives you that. And I remember when I went to my first one, Onyx, with the help of Great Lakes chapter and the Southwest chapter, because the Northwest chapter was in formation, we had our first cocktail party, and it was a smashing success. And we had our Onyx party there, and it was just a great time. And so yeah, International Miss Leather started in 1986, and then IMSBB, which is International Miss Boot Black, was added in the mid 90s. So that's another event you want to go to as well. Now, for a while, it was kind of mainly on the West Coast, but now it's been situated in San Jose for the last, I would say almost decade or so, I believe. But it's a great event. This year went virtual. Hopefully next year we'll go back to in person. But great event to go to. I mean, they have how you see them, the Boot Blacks have their kind of showcase, and also with the contestants for IMSL. It's a great event. You definitely have to go to it. And then if you're kind of not into the leather, but you're kind of into rubber, there's International Mr. Rubber, which is also in Chicago. And that is usually in November. I don't know much about IMR, which is International Mr. Rubber. I said I'm going to go this year because I've never been, but the first one was back in 1998. And it's usually the first weekend in November, and it's a fun time. Again, it's just if you're into rubber, or you always had an interest into rubber, And I said this year I'm going to go because I said once I get my body a little bit more together, I plan on getting some rubber, and I want to just go check it out because some of our Onyx brothers have competed in some rubber contests. One of our brothers in Deep South, Pussycat Onyx, he won Mr. Florida Rubber. So he'll be competing in International Rubber in Chicago this coming fall. So we'll be up there to support him as well. So great event to go to as well. So hopefully this will answer some of your questions regarding the leather events. Of course, if you have any questions that I may have didn't touch on, that I didn't answer, please feel free to hit me up on my Twitter or Instagram, Daddy Rod Onyx. You can also email me, daddyrodonyx@gmail.com. Please follow my YouTube, subscribe, retweet, tap people join, because we got more great episodes coming up. One of the next episodes I want to talk about is the power dynamics. That's literally another question that's asked a lot about the Master Slim or Sir Dom, Daddy Boy, Dom Sub. What's the difference? And there is a difference between all of them. But it all falls into the power dynamics, and all of them have a different structure. So I'm definitely going to talk about that on the next show. All right. Until next time, again, thank you so much for watching. I love you all. Hope to see you all at IML. For those who are going, check out blackout.onyxmen.com. I would love to see you there. Hey, and have a good time. All right. Take care of yourself. Peace.